Allison, I think I see Doug's raised his hand. The first question, I know I've seen quite a few during your presentation, was about the how Medicaid programs vary by state, and what's the different, people asking about where they live, and what Medicaid is available. So can you speak? And another question was frequently asked was about people who are working with disabilities. So if you can speak to those two things first, and then we'll cover some of the additional questions.
Yep. I'm glad this question got brought up. It's a really important one about Medicaid. So like I said, Medicaid is administered on the state level, which means every state does it a little differently. Their eligibility can look different. Their programs can look different. It also means that based on political history, that some states have more expanded Medicaid programs than others, which is of course inequitable access and not fair. But it is the reality that we're living in. And so again, that goes back to the way we have set up the Canary Corps model, is that this peer-run program will help connect you with Medicaid information and assistance applying for it and navigating it and understanding it in your state to make sure that you are getting the most accurate information. That's important because for people with ME, sometimes the difference in us being able to access Medicaid and not is literally one paragraph of policy or not. And so you have to be able to access the kind of people that can help you understand that and get through the system. Speaking of which, I want to talk about the income limits for Medicaid and what happens when we're working, even if it's only a very small amount. So there are special Medicaid programs for people with disabilities who are working. They're often called buy-in programs or working buy-in programs, disabled working buy-in programs, disabled Medicaid. They go by a lot of different terms, but I'll give you an example here in the state of Colorado. You can have $11,000 of earned income per month. You can be working and make $11,000 of income per month and retain full Medicaid benefits, including waiver services. Now, like I said, there are differences from every state on Medicaid and how they decided to expand and administer their services. So we are one of the more expanded states, particularly in that disability working buy-in program, but there are these programs throughout the country in most states available. And Canary Corps can help you get in contact with someone who understands the disability Medicaid programs in your state to talk through, is there an asset limit? What does it look like if you're married? Is there an income limit? Do they look at only your income or your household's income? What's the definition of work? Do you have to be on Social Security disability? And all of these kinds of questions.
Thanks, Allison. Okay, Doug, you have your hand raised. Do you want to unmute and ask your question?
There we go. Yeah, I'm Doug Tooley. I'm in Colorado as well, although the southwest corner, as opposed to the southeast and that excellent town of Fort Collins. 2024 is going to be a political year. And I would hope that we can be constructive to the very divisive dialogue that has characterized both of our political parties. That divisiveness, I believe there is a connection, perhaps more indirect than direct, but a little bit of a direct connection to the medical condition of ME. Certainly, I think it has infected the medical profession. That type of divisiveness is based on an elite sense of entitlement and in our current society, its status is associated with playing that game. And part of that playing that game is putting other people down for whatever reason, including saying that myalgic encephalomyelitis, still working on that one, is a made-up condition. That is changing, and I would hope that we can, as a group, be part of a systemic positive change in our society. And I think this program can do that in a small fashion. I don't know if you have any thoughts. I know you're limited on what you can say politically, but I do think some political activity is allowed if you go through the bookkeeping. I don't know if there's anything at all you can say on the political context, but I'd appreciate it if you could. Thank you.
Thanks, Douglas. Appreciate your attending today. And yes, we are fighting for people with ME in all sorts of, all across this country in all sorts of political contexts. There will be, we are thinking about this, the issue of medical education about ME/CFS and making sure people, our healthcare providers, better understand and treat it, so that all people with ME get the compassionate and accurate care that they need. And there will be more information coming soon about campaign work this week, even more information about work we plan to do in the next year. Importantly, with Canary Corps, we are trying to, of course, serve the ME community, but we also won't limit the help we provide based upon, you don't need to have a diagnosis in order to get help with the Canary Corps program and get connected to these disability services and supports. And that's intentional. While we need to attack the issue of improving medical education, so critical to do, we also want to get people help right now and not have simply the limits around diagnosis and access to medically informed care to prevent necessarily access to your rights to access to supports and services as a disabled person. It is very important. So thank you for your comment. Meredith, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Are there resources available to get like humidifiers and things like that, humidifiers, dehumidifiers, and things like that?
That's a good question. I'm just going to jump in here, Ben. I hope that's okay. So part of the work of Canary Corps is that we're going to be, having a conversation with each participant that comes in and figure out, what are your needs? What are your prioritized needs? So if for you, that means, you really need to access a quality humidifier or dehumidifier or an air filter or whatever it is, connecting you with the right organization in your community that can help you navigate. Is there a community resource in your area that can pay for it? Is this something that could be covered under DME, durable medical equipment, under your insurance? So it could be that a care coordinator might be able to help you, or your local Center for Independent Living. Canary Corps is ideally going to be able to put you in the right direction to access that help in your community if it's available.
I'm sorry.
You're muted.
With home help, but is there cleaning support or like lawn work, like just like cutting the grass or like shoveling? Because okay, honey, can you give me 1 second, please? It is a violation of code to have your lawn past a certain height, or not shoveling pathways. But those of us who are disabled are unable to do that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Medicaid waivers are not able to help with those like outdoor type stuff, and this is something I've encountered myself. But the point of Canary Corps is to help get you to the right place in your region to connect you with help that exists. So for example, if someone came in, in the area near me, I know that there's a grant program through our county that the Center for Independent Living would refer them to for that kind of support and assistance. That's the idea of the Canary Care model, is that you can tell, the person that you talk to when you come into Canary Corps, this is the kind of help that I need. They can get you to the right place in your community to get you connected with that help if it exists in your area.
Okay, thanks. And is there a way is there a way like I'm so sorry. Um if those services aren't in our area, would Canary Corps volunteers be able to advocate for them, and would we have guidance through you and Ben or other individuals to help get those resources in our area?
Yeah, I'll take that question, Allison. Thanks, Meredith. I appreciate you raising these issues. And so that really is one aspect of what we're trying to do with Canary Corps is, in one sense, identify what resources exist now that we can connect our community to, because this is a crisis and people need help. And so we want to really focus on what can have a tangible impact as quickly as possible for as many people as possible. And that's where a lot of Allison's presentation has focused today. We know that there are going to be plenty of areas where support won't work out perfectly. There will be gaps, there will be limitations in different states. We may connect people to resources and programs where people may encounter additional barriers. And so what we will also be looking at, we won't be able to provide, right away, but we will be looking at where there are patterns of gaps, of challenges, of biases in the systems, where we can then do systems advocacy. And that really links back to our ME Action Network model of wanting to build a network of state chapters all across the country, where then we can be identifying through Canary Corps the particular challenges that may exist in a particular state or region, and then provide that information to advocates who can do things like meet with local officials or program people, or even work at the federal level. So we're going to take all the information we learn going through doing the best we can to try to help people, and where there are gaps, we're going to try to improve, but also fight for changes and for improvements. And that's what the disabled activists who came before us had to do to create these programs in the first place. And we know that's what we're going to have to do to fight for our access. So I won't pretend that like everything we have a magic wand that can fix everything right away, but it does focus our vision of strategically what we want to accomplish. And that's why I would encourage people to join with ME Action, become part of our network, join the different state chapters, so that we can fight for people who are encountering all sorts of different problems and challenges in their area. Okay, so I want to go on to, we have several other hands raised and questions to get to. Let's go to Louise next. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if y'all could offer maybe a simple process to just at the very beginning start looking into benefits. Somebody mentioned benefits.gov, and I was just on that website, and I went to Benefit Finder and I just got a blank page. And then I clicked on benefits and it just still gives me a blank page, which is kind of sad. I don't know why. But I'm just looking for, like the first 3 steps you could take maybe just to kind of get people started.
Thanks for your question. I think it's a great one. And like Holly said in the chat, all of these questions are demonstrating exactly why we need Canary Corps. So ideally, what would happen once you go through the Canary Corps program is that's what you're going to get is these instructions of where do you go? How do you start? What kind of program should you be looking for? We have to be able to start the program so that we can help you and get you that individualized support, because we wouldn't be able to say make one page handout that applies for everyone across the country, for example, how to access Medicaid, because it's so different in every state. That's why we helped develop the Canary Corps program, to get you exactly that information, because I know how overwhelming it is to go to benefits.gov or any of the other websites and be like, this isn't working, I don't know what applies to me. You need another human being who knows what they're doing to help guide you through that process. Canary Corps is going to get you the peer support to get you to that local human being who knows how to get what the programs are and how to start and help you through it.
Thanks, Allison. So
Great.
we're coming to the end. I want to try to, we will stay on and try to answer a couple more questions. I do just want to say for people before we reach the top of the hour, we realize there's a lot to do. And so Allison and I are still working on finishing aspects of the program. The next step, we know people need, there's a lot of need for help right now. So Canary Corps is still coming, and keep checking our website for more information. I encourage anyone who does have the capacity or interest to be part of making this change to come volunteer with us, join us. That can be as simple as like following a process to look up Medicaid rules in your particular state that we can then put into a national directory to be able to answer people's questions when they come from a particular area. Or there are a lot of different ways that you're going to be able to help out, and we're going to make it safe and sustainable for people who are sick and disabled to do this volunteering themselves. So please encourage you to check that out as we finish the program, and as we recruit and train the volunteers. Then we will be starting the program to offer this support. And again, if you have other feedback, questions, other things you want to make sure we're aware of and thinking of as we finish designing the program, go to that suggestion box on our website and give us any feedback. You may have had challenges, or maybe you had experiences and successes and wins in a particular way. We want to know that information, and we'll be learning. I think the big picture thing I want you to take away is that we are going to be learning with you as we go. We're going to be trying to providing you the best information up front in an energy efficient way, but also continually improving from the feedback that we get from people in both things that work and things that don't work. Okay, so I understand if those of you anyone has to sign off. Thank you so much for joining. We'll stay in a couple more minutes just to go through these additional questions. And so I want to go over to Cynthia now. Cynthia, you've got your hand raised. You want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation. And I have been on this journey almost as long as Allison in terms of the system. I mean, I'm 14 years. And a lot of these programs, for example, don't work where I am, which I really appreciated that you let people know the variance from even county to county is important. But also, I really appreciated mostly your list. And I think you partly answered part of my question, Ben, on what you aren't working on yet. And that's because there are huge gaps in the system, and that the housing, a lot of the areas that you said you can't work on and help with yet are often where people like me have been, kind of where I'm held up at and having trouble with the services that don't exist. So I just wanted to know a little bit of how you plan to train volunteers, because the services are so different. And I think a lot of us who've had this disease for a long time, I'm sure Allison and you can relate, you end up being looped in a continual system that doesn't exist. One place refers you to another. And so I want to make sure that volunteers understand that what may work for them or work for some people in some areas, doesn't work for the people they may be working with. I think some of these will be really great resources for people that are newer to the diseases. But I just wondered how you were going to handle some of that, or if you've even gotten to that point yet. Because
thanks, Cynthia.
Yeah. Good
Thank
job.
you. I appreciate your question. Thanks.
We
Yeah,
privilege and ableism in our own community. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. We will, if you're interested in learning more about volunteering, we couldn't fit that into today's presentation. I encourage you to come to check out our volunteer info session. And there's also FAQs that I have on our website, canarycorps.org, that answers some initial questions about how we're going to approach training volunteers. We don't expect people to have any prior experience to be able to participate in this program. And we will provide step-by-step processes. And so we're thinking carefully about how to collect the right information to point people in the right directions. There will still be barriers and challenges that incur after that, but learning about those barriers too will help us to refine the program. So it's a mutual thing done together. If there are unique barriers, to report those back to us, so we can continue to think and identify new ways to try to overcome them. This is going to be a collaborative and iterative process. But Allison, did you want to say anything briefly about just the experience of kind of getting passed around from place to place, and the issue of difficulty of navigating and finding services and how we kind of approach that?
Yeah, it's a big problem, and I think it's even more of a problem for our community because of the nature of our disease, dynamic disability, often invisible. There's sort of this stigma from the places that we go for help. And my hope is that Canary Corps might help minimize some of that by sort of being this peer support cheerleader to help you get into the right office. And advocate to get what you need from that office, because I think oftentimes when they play hot potato with us. They're like, oh, this is not my problem, go over here, and then rinse, repeat, and then we don't get our needs met. If Canary Corps knows it's the job of the Center for Independent Living to make sure that you can receive care at home and not be in a nursing facility, and they're trying to push you out the door. No, they're not, because this is their job, and we will equip you with what you need to get the services there. And then, like Ben has talked about previously, that the gaps in care will help inform advocacy strategies, which I think is really important.
Thanks so much to both of you. Yeah, it was a very interesting presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Leanne, you have your hand raised. You want to ask your question?
Yeah, quick question regarding obviously you guys giving help out. I find that we all kind of need someone to talk to. We're just in a chat in a group to find like-minded individuals, maybe like a group that maybe had a moderator. What can you guys provide, or make us all aware of?
Allison, do you want to take what parts of it you want to take, and then I'll respond to the rest.
Yes, so I will refer to ME Action's got some great peer support options available already, and I want to make sure you know about them. If you don't already, Holly, I think, may put a link in the chat or is mentioning them in the chat. So if you're not part of those, please do look at them. The purpose of Canary Corps is to really be peer support to access these services, as opposed to a generalized peer support for living with ME, because those other support groups already fill that need of generalized peer space to process living with ME and get support for it. And there are moderators in those groups.
Yeah, and I'll just say, we've thought about this. We definitely, Allison and I have had many conversations about the fact there are kind of like two major components to this. One is like all the logistical challenges of just getting to the support you need, but there are also this is an emotional process. It's traumatic, it's triggering, even the different things, the small ways I've encountered different things like that. It is hard, and we want to recognize that. And so part of how we're designing Canary Corps is to try to get people help in an efficient way, while engaging with them as real human beings in context, and that you're connecting with another person. So we're going to try to provide that aspect of it. But we also, don't want to replicate all the great support groups and communities that are out there, and we don't want to pretend like Canary Corps is the only one place where people can find that help. So ME Action has a network of Facebook groups. Encourage you to check them out, and Canary Corps is going to be looking and evaluating how we can also better connect with where people are finding and accessing care and support. Sometimes that may be around with an organization, sometimes that may be around a geographic area or a particular identity that you hold. Or for, you may be a caregiver and be part of a caregiving support group. So there are a lot of different places where people are receiving support. We want to be careful at Canary Corps not to try to replace what already exists out there, but we're going to, ME Action does provide support. We're going to look at how we can best integrate across all the different support groups we do have, and to engage with the other places people find support too, because it's going to be important to get the word out, to reach people too. And so we want to build partnerships across the community of infection-associated chronic illnesses. All right. I think with that, we are done. Thank you all for joining. I know there are tons of additional questions people have, and we hope that as we go with Canary Corps, we can answer them. Again, feel free to leave any feedback with the suggestion box to us. Anything you find could be useful and help improve. Yes.
Excuse me, do you want to mention the date of the next Canary Corps? I just saw it in the update on the website. The January 24th. January 23rd.
Yeah. January 23rd, Tuesday at 4 p.m. So RSVP for that, and you'll get, we'll get further updates and send you materials. That information is also, as you said, on our website at canarycorps.org. You can find all that information. I've created a little widget that will show any upcoming dates will be automatically posted there. So that really is your go-to for any additional information. And we look forward to next steps. Thank you all. This is a vision that we believe is essential and important, but it's going to be one we do together. And so I'm hugely grateful to Allison helping us with Canary Corps and with this presentation and the way she's been able to explain and be vulnerable to share her story. And thank you all to everyone who's come and is holding tight to this vision of supporting each other, of providing a collective response to meet our needs, because we are in a crisis where people need care, and we can do better. And that's the vision that we want to see going forward. All right, I'm going to stop the recording now, and I thank you, all of you, for coming.